Nowadays, there's parkour athletes across the world, and there's about 100 of us in every region. And parkour is also known in video games, movies, TV shows, and so many more things. But how do we get here? How do we get so that parkour is known across the world? Let's take a few steps back and figure that out. A while ago, I put a poll on my Instagram asking if you guys knew the history of parkour. 57% of you said you either didn't know the history or not enough of it. It's very surprising to me. I thought more people would know about it, knowing more about the Yamakasi and things like that. So, as someone who likes history and parkour, I decided to make this video explaining exactly how parkour started. If you look up who started parkour, it will show David Bell's face. And while that's not wrong, it's not the full story either. So let's start by explaining the full story of parkour. Our story begins with a man named George Herbert. He was part of the French military in the late 1800s and early 1900s. He traveled across the world, observing indigenous tribes of Africa and Central America. Famously, in 1902, he was sent out to the Caribbean because Mount Pele, a volcano there on one of the islands, was erupting, and he noticed that the indigenous tribes were avoiding the eruption, jumping over things and moving swiftly through the environment. He then took what he observed, and created method naturelle, or in English, the natural method. Herbert's philosophy was être fort pour être utile, or to be strong to be useful, which is a motivator for a lot of people now to do parkour. Because of him, militaries now have those obstacle courses with the logs and things, which are called parkour in French, which literally translates to course or routes. This natural method involved running, climbing, jumping, and even swimming, which I say we need to bring back. We go back to our roots and bring back swimming. That brings us to Raymond Bell, David Bell's father. Raymond was a part of the French military and trained with the natural method. He had a rough childhood, being raised in the military after he got separated from his family when he was young. He wanted to become part of the elite firefighter force, which is exactly what it sounds like. In France, firefighters are connected to the military. At night, when everyone was asleep, Raymond Bell ran the obstacle course to really optimize his endurance, speed, and power. He was always revered for climbing walls without the use of a ladder and doing so safely and quickly. A few years later, Raymond had 2 sons, but we'll only be focusing on one today. His name, David Bell. You might have heard of him before. Stupid planes. He was born in Normandy. He did gymnastics and was really into martial arts. At 15, he quit gymnastics and dropped out of high school. He wasn't a fan of gymnastics because of all the rules and lack of freedom he had with the sport. After that, he moved to the suburb of Paris, Nice. Raymond taught David the natural method and took that into an urban environment of the city. This led to him teaching 8 of his friends around the 1980s. This group took the natural method and turned it into l'art du déplacement, or the art of displacement, which is what I'll be calling it, because again, I don't speak French. The art of displacement wasn't like parkour we know today. In fact, I wouldn't even call it a sport at this point. It was very much a way of life. This form of training focused on being strong in the mind and body. This group wasn't like your hype teams, stories, or storms. They sometimes trained with little to no sleep or food to be able to be as strong in any scenario. If the whole group was doing a line or challenge, they'd restart if one person messed up. It's rough, but effective. This was very much a way to get from point A to point B in the most efficient way possible, which means any movement that stopped your momentum dead in their tracks, like a precision or a cat leap, no, just a precision, it would not be existing at this point. Interesting enough, the teammates, they went to Dame du Lac, a structure in the city near the lake, where it's a giant structure where they hung by their feet and other teammates had to hold them up by their legs to build trust and so that they won't fall. Hardcore. This group named themselves the Yamakasi, which means strong man, strong spirit, strong body, in Lingala, an African language from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The philosophy of this group was to be strong to be useful and overcoming fear. They will work day and night to become as strong as possible. The group took no excuses for not doing a jump. If you said something like, "Oh, I can't do a jump because my shoes are worn down and I haven't got new ones," they would literally say to do the jump without shoes. In roughly 1997-ish, two members, David Bell and Sebastian Foucan, had conflicting ideologies with the group. David wanted to become an actor, while Sebastian wanted to teach others, instead of just training all the time. Because of these conflicting ideologies with the group, they split. And from then, the Yamakasi, or the remaining members, started to teach the second generation of Yamakasi. The Yamakasi then started to use the term traceur for practitioners of art of displacement because they were kind of tracing the footsteps of David Bell like David Bell did with his father. Later on, actually, let's think about the word parkour for a minute. And not the one we know now, the one they used for obstacle courses, the one that means course or route. Notice how there's an S at the end, and there's a C instead of a K. Yeah, let's go ahead and take out that C and switch it with a K, because K is stronger than C. But let's also take out the S. It doesn't mean anything. It's useless. It doesn't make a sound. So now we just have parkour like we see it today. This was basically what was suggested to David Bell by one of his friends. The group then released a documentary called Generation Yamakasi in 2001, basically showing their philosophies, their training, all that stuff to the new generation of Yamakasi. And this was one of the first cases of parkour being displayed in a video or something like that. The first one was Jump Airman in 1998, I believe. And yeah, if you haven't seen it, watch it because it's a great film, pretty good, amazing jumps, all the stuff. Let's jump forward a few years to 2003, to the release of Jump London. And me. But more importantly, Jump London. This is the first time the term freerunning was used. Sebastian Foucan created freerunning to be more inclusive than parkour or art of displacement. Instead of efficiency and being as strong as possible and getting from point A to B as fast as possible, this focused on creativity and self-expression. A year later, David Bell starred in a film called District 13. This movie showcased loads of parkour that still hold up today. That's pretty much all I wanted to say about the movie. It doesn't really have anything to do with their story. I just thought it was a cool mention because it's kind of important because it mentions David Bell. But yeah, that's it. It's a pretty good movie. If you haven't seen it, see it. That's a demand. Go watch it. This movie only released in France, so this isn't really where parkour took off, but because it only released in France. Now, to do that, we're gonna need a franchise everyone knows about. A franchise like the James Bond films. A film specifically called Casino Royale. This movie showcased James Bond chasing after Sebastian Khan in the opening of this movie. If you ask me, this is really where the populace really started to see what parkour is about. The movie introduced parkour in a high-budget, well-known franchise. Probably seen this scene at least 10 times. So cool, pretty epic. This 5-minute clip is the perfect thing to really kickstart parkour into popularity. Jumping forward a few years, Britain becomes the first country to ever recognize parkour as an official sport in 2016. It's kind of amazing to see how far parkour has came, from kids jumping around on rooftops to national competitions and gyms everywhere. Makes you wonder where the sport's gonna go next after this. The question some of you might be having is, why is this important? Why are we covering the start of parkour? For me, the answer is to preserve culture. If the beginnings of our sport are forgotten, then that means the core philosophies we have with it are lost. If we don't revisit the past from time to time, then the word traceur and art of displacement essentially have no meaning. Future generations of athletes will ask, why are we called freerunners or traceurs? And if the best answer is, I don't know, it sounds kind of cool, and I think we did the sport a huge disservice. Okay, we did it. Sweet. We went through the whole origins of parkour. Probably missed a few things, but I only covered major events that had to do with the origins, not like the full history of like very beginnings to exactly where we are now. I just wanted to cover the very beginning. And I think I did that pretty well. Getting the dates for some of these things were very difficult because it's all kind of hearsay and there's not like a uniform date for a lot of things that happen. But I tried my best. Everything is in the right order. School made this project take a lot longer than I'd hope it would, but at least it's finally done, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you guys subscribe and go follow my Instagram and like this video. Or don't, I don't know, I'm not your dad, I don't care. I won't be posting a lot of things on this channel, just probably like big projects and things like that. So don't expect too much. And yeah, that's all from me. Check your surfaces, stay in school, and that's all I got. Peace.